Imagine if Fernando Alonso never left Ferrari. No GP2 engine memes, no McLaren Honda disaster, and no sitting on the sidelines wondering what could have been. Would he have finally won that third title? Would Sebastian Vettel have stayed at Red Bull? And would the course of history in Formula One be ever changed if he never left Ferrari? Let's rewind to 2014 and see what could have happened if Fernando Alonso never left Ferrari in 2014. Let's begin with the surrounding circumstances of why Fernando Alonso and Ferrari split ways after the end of the 2014 season. For starters, Fernando Alonso was pretty done with Ferrari shenanigans. They had not won a title since 2007, and they came very close multiple times, but Fernando Alonso was just tired of not winning. He'd been at Ferrari for 5 seasons and came agonizingly close to a championship 3 times. He was runner-up to Sebastian Vettel in 2010, 2012, and 2013. By 2014, with the new turbo hybrid engines, Ferrari had fallen behind. They didn't win a single race that year. Their new engine was underpowered, unreliable, and nowhere near Mercedes. Alonso still dragged that car to 6th in the standings, but for a driver of his caliber, that wasn't enough. He'd given Ferrari absolutely everything, and the way 2014 was going, it looked like they were going backwards rather than more towards a championship again. He wanted out, and at that time it made sense. Ferrari looked kind of lost, looked like they were going backwards, and let's not forget, Alonso was very much at the top of his game, and he probably didn't think he had much time left to waste. So why McLaren Honda? What made it so appealing for Fernando Alonso? McLaren Honda was a clean slate. It was a works partnership, and it was a chance for Fernando Alonso to be the main man again, leading the team. For Alonso, this was a fresh start that he needed, and it also came with a bit of nostalgia. McLaren Honda is one of the most famous names in Formula One, and they had dominated in the 80s and early 90s, and it was a romantic dream, and it was symbolic. It was supposed to be redemption for him and McLaren Honda. He believed that it was his best shot at a chance for a 3rd world title. Alonso said in 2015, McLaren Honda can give me the best results and a 3rd world championship. He may have truly believed that at the time, but for other options at that time, there really weren't any other better teams or options that were available to him. Mercedes was locked in with Hamilton and Rosberg. Red Bull didn't really want him, and Alonso didn't really want a Renault engine anyways. You would think a swap there would have made sense between him and Vettel, but that never materialized. Williams was quite strong at the time given they had a Mercedes power unit, but their ceiling wasn't particularly high. So McLaren Honda was his choice, and we all know how that turned out. Next, we have to look at both Ferrari's and McLaren Honda's successes and failures to see where Alonso would have wound up had he stayed at Ferrari. So let's compare how the two teams actually performed after their split. 2015 saw a very immediate downward performance trend for Alonso. Ferrari were 2nd in the Constructors' Championship, and McLaren Honda was all the way down in 9th, a really abysmal year for them. 2016 wasn't all that much better. Ferrari was 3rd, and McLaren Honda was 6th. 2017, it gets worse again. Ferrari wound up 2nd in the championship, and McLaren Honda was back down to 9th. 2018, again, Ferrari was 2nd, McLaren Honda went back up to 6th. 2019, Ferrari was runner-up again, and McLaren was only 4th in the Constructors' Championship. Come 2020, Ferrari started going downhill a bit. They were in 6th, and McLaren Honda was actually in 3rd, so quite the reversal of trends there. However, in 2019 and 2020, Fernando Alonso took a hiatus from Formula One, so he really didn't see the 2 best results from McLaren over the years. That all highlights that Ferrari weren't world champions necessarily, but they were regular podium contenders, and they did have several wins and fought for several titles throughout that time. McLaren, meanwhile, couldn't even score points half the time. Alonso left in search of wins and championships, and he found himself stuck in the midfield and all the way at the back of the grid, being barely able to score any points. Before we get into what would have happened if Fernando Alonso never left Ferrari, give the video a quick like and comment down below who you think Fernando Alonso should have drove for in 2015. So what would have happened if Alonso never left Ferrari? Well, if Alonso had stayed, his career and his reputation would look completely different. First off, he would have almost certainly won a race again, which he has not done since the 2013 season. Ferrari won 3 races in 2015 alone, all with Vettel, who was of course, Alonso's successor. It's easy to imagine Alonso converting at least a few of those wins himself as well. I think fan sentiment would have been a lot different as well. He would have been more remembered and thought of not as the guy shouting about a GP2 engine, but as the relentless veteran still taking the fight to Mercedes every weekend. Not to burst any hearts here, but to be honest, I don't think he would have won another title with Ferrari. Mercedes were just too dominant. But with a competitive car, Alonso could have challenged for the championship in 2017, 18, and 2019, and unlike Vettel, he rarely cracked under pressure. So maybe he doesn't win a third title, but maybe, just maybe, the fight goes down to the wire, and he certainly would have had a lot more wins under his belt. Even if he didn't win another title, I think his legacy would have been much stronger, because instead of being seen as a legend who vanished from relevance, he would have remained a front runner, and he would have been thought of as a driver who never gave up in his fight to beat Mercedes. The ripple effects of Alonso staying at Ferrari would have been quite massive as well. Vettel would have likely stayed at Red Bull and been beaten by Ricciardo for a few more years. Without that dream of driving for Ferrari keeping Vettel going, he may have retired early. Max Verstappen's career would have looked drastically different as well. He likely would have stayed at Toro Rosso a couple years longer, and there would have been no infamous 2016 Spain win and no early Red Bull promotion. I think at McLaren Honda, they probably would have kept Kevin Magnussen, and without the Alonso spotlight, there would have been no GP2 engine moment, and there would have been a lot less pressure on Honda's failures. Alonso's whole racing story shifts as well. He probably never takes that 2-year gap in 2019 and 2020 because there's really no reason for him to leave. He's still racing at the sharp end of the grid, and he probably also doesn't race at the Indy 500 and Le Mans as well. The entire modern F1 driver timeline could have been completely rewritten, all because of one driver decision in 2014. That driver and team decision meant that Alonso left Ferrari chasing a championship that never came. Instead, he found heartbreak and years of frustration. He continues to race 20-some years later in Formula One in search of another win and another championship. So what do you think? Would Alonso have won another title if he had stayed at Ferrari, or was leaving always destined to end this way? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button to see more Formula One what ifs.